The best of money matters. Right Business.
Welcome to The Right Business, where we dive deep into the stories of trailblazers who dare to disrupt the status quo, find the gap in the market to find the right business. Hello, I'm Hongbin Jeong. Now, if you're looking to make a meaningful connection this Valentine's Day, today's guest might just be the matchmaker of your dreams. Anisa Hassan, the founder of luxury dating agency Date High Flyers, is a matchmaking mogul on a mission to make 1 million marriages. But Anisa's matchmaking roots run even deeper. Her mother, a self-proclaimed romantic architect, was always pairing up cousins, neighbors, and unsuspecting wedding guests. While her mom's methods might have been a little more casual, Anisa wanted something more dependable. And so, Date High Flyers was born, providing professional matchmaking services for clients ranging from CEOs to high-flying executives in their late 30s to 70s. With clients from across Asia Pacific, including Singapore, Australia, Hong Kong, and beyond, Anisa has truly become the go-to for those looking for love in the fast lane. So to find out more, joining me today is the one and only Anisa Hassan, who is the founder of Date High Flyers. Anisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Anisa, just to get the ball rolling here, what inspired you to transition from a successful career in the media industry to starting your own business in matchmaking?
One word: motherhood.
Okay.
So many people may have seen me read the news on Channel News Asia when it first started in the year 2000. But I became a mom shortly after. In the year 2001, I became a mother. And it was a privileged role, right? Especially when your daughter was born prematurely.
Right.
So it was an easy decision for me to make that transition because I was very clear that I was a mother first and a career woman second. So it was an easy decision for me to decide to leave the limelight, the glitz and the glamour, and to focus more on my child and to see her thrive. The matchmaking business came after that. After taking some time off from work, I decided to reflect on what's really important for me going forward, and the ability to have that freedom of time was key. Right? And I knew that I was not going to go back to the workforce so soon. And so I decided that business was going to be something that I would be focusing on. But what kind of business, right? Everybody who is from the media industry would be going into public relations or consulting. Those avenues were not something that I was excited about. But I knew I was a people person. And being a journalist, I'm always interested in the love stories or life stories of people. And finding matchmaking at that point of time, or that business proposition of starting a matchmaking business, was like a natural thing for me to do because I knew that I was going to play up on my strength of being curious about people.
Right.
And after that, seeing how I can help them, I can help pair them and help them find their love partner.
Right. Amazing. But I mean, what is Date High Flyers' unique value proposition, and how does it differ from other matchmaking services in the industry? I mean, right off the bat, why focus on high net worth individuals?
I have to find a niche, as in any business, right? And I was very familiar with the professional crowd because, being journalist before, I was always hunting for people angled story, and they were generally professionals or people who have a very exciting career going for them. So I had to find my niche, as in any business. You can't go wide, because if not, you'll be serving nobody. So I decided that professional was the way to go, and I looked around and I knew that there were many friends who was so eligible, so smart, so intelligent, so good looking, but yet, so lonely. Right. So I knew that if I were to approach it carefully and bring value to their already busy life, that means take something off their plate, I knew that I could have a business moving forward. But I think what makes Date High Flyers different from other matchmaking or dating services out there is currently I've gone beyond just making pairings, right? Making introductions to help them find their life partner. Rather, I am prepping them to be a great partner first before they can find a partner of their dreams. And what do I mean by that? I think a lot of people cannot they don't know how to define themselves beyond their profession, beyond their academic accolades, beyond their material success, like where they live, what they own, and stuff like that. When I ask them, who are you without your career, without your academic backgrounds, they find it hard to explain who they are, right? And that's when I go digging and probing, and we want to get down to the core of who this person is and how this person is showing up in a relationship. So they don't really know about themselves. Many singles start off obsessed with about finding the one, right? But are they the one that people are looking for? That's another question that we are always unpacking together. Right. So I go deep into somebody's background, not just how they were raised, because that also gave me a lot of insight into their conditioning about what constitutes a good relationship, right? Because they have their mom and dad to look at to see how they do relationship. So when I go deep, I think this is where a lot of people become highly evolved and they become more self-aware as to what they bring to the table, rather than having a laundry list of all the things that they want to be fulfilled before they want to consider this person as a potential life partner.
Right. Well, speaking of going deep into an individual, let's go into deeper roots of you, Anisa. Now, your mother is a self-proclaimed romantic architect, and she was always pairing up cousins, neighbors, and unsuspecting wedding guests. How did your early experiences with matchmaking, particularly your mother's involvement, influence the way you approach your business today?
I didn't realize this until much later into the business, right? My mother, bless her heart, she has passed for 3 years now. But in my early experiences, I know that she's always have a good heart. And she's always fighting for the underdog, the misfits, the underprivileged. And she can't see people who are single, right? She will always say, hey, how come you're looking like this and nobody is interested in you, right? So she was a little bit nosy in that regard. I was still very young at that age, at that time. But I do see her making connections for my cousins, for my neighbors. All she said was, hey, do you know so-and-so is single? Do you want me to make an introduction? Do you know that they come from a good family background? I know that they come from a good family background because I know the parents, right? So she starts the conversation advocating for the person that she wants to match. And I saw that firsthand, how she was interested in people's lives. But I also know that she was doing it for the love of the game. She didn't have a system, right? And I also saw firsthand when she was berated or when somebody's marriage fell apart, they started blaming her for making that introduction. And that was when she got stuck. She didn't know how to respond to such instances. For goodness sake, she didn't have the high education. So all she did was, it didn't work out. Let me find you another one. So she loves the game. She didn't have a system. And so on hindsight, I thought, I love the game, but I need a system to make this a workable business, right? And of course, she didn't charge. It was from the pure goodness of her heart. But I knew that if I want to make a transition and if I want to make this a profession that I get to do for a very long period of time, it is something that must be worthwhile for my time, and I must provide more value in the introductions that I make to my clients. So I knew what not to do. Not to have a system would be disastrous. So I made sure that I am only serving clients who I can serve. Right. I am only serving clients, who are not just throwing money at me, but they are open to being flexible, to taking recommendations, and they must be open to be, honest to me about, where they've been in their previous relationship, because I'm not just serving clients who are doing this for the first time. They're not just, people who are single, never married, but I serve an eclectic range of clients from the never married, divorced, widowed, and sometimes complicated relationship, right? So firstly, I have to ensure that they are a good fit in terms of the clients that I'm serving. And I will know what kind of clients to bring on based on the conversation that I have with them, right? And if they're open to suggestions, they're open to recommendations, they're open to learning, right? They have a growth mindset, they're not fixed in their way of thinking, that's when I know that, hey, you would make a good fit for some of the clients that I already have in my database, provided you are willing to work with me, right? So there must be of course, supply and demand, but I must be able to see that I can make a difference and provide the transformation that they need in the long term.
Okay, you mentioned there that you would see whether or not they're a good fit. So have you ever rejected someone who was willing to, try out your service?
Yes, of course.
What are the criteria then to be part of your community?
I think it has been quite well documented that I was interviewing this rather over-entitled banker who came to me and threw her credit card on the table that fell on the floor. And she said, I really don't care how much you charge, but I make $250,000 a year at 28, and I'm looking for somebody who makes double that and who lives in District 9, 10, and 11, and he must drive a certain car because I'm driving this. So her conditions for coming on board is purely material. Yeah. And I said, I do not match according to postal district. And you must be mistaken to come here and to make those kinds of demands, because if you want to be matched by me, there are certain rules to this engagement. And if you are only looking at ways that I can serve you without applying myself or without applying my expertise in this, then we don't have a deal.
Oh, wow. Okay, so let's say they're a good fit and they want to try out your services. I want to find out more how this works. So if trying to find whether or not they're a good fit and whether or not they fit with your other clients, is there a questionnaire that they have to fill out, an interview process? How does this all work?
Yeah, that's the fun part, the interview process. Being a journalist, you can't help, but to get excited about interview the way that you are interviewing me right now. So I get very curious. I get very excited whenever I meet people for the first time, right? And I told them, the parameters with which we need to have in order for us to work together, but allow me to get to know them at a deep level, beyond their titles, beyond their reputation, beyond their wealth or, the family upbringing. I want to get to know them as a person, right? That's when I get to ask them to define themselves. What triggers you, when you're in a relationship? What makes you happy? I go deep into the emotional aspect of who this person is, right? Yeah, they can write down in their preferences, they have received their education from an Ivy League university, they have worked in XYZ company. All those don't matter to me. I mean, it's nice embellishment to their CVs, but this is not a CV that we're presenting to another person. We're presenting you as a person that comes with core values, that comes with certain beliefs, right? Or predisposition based on the conditioning that you have received when you were young, based on your preferences, what makes you happy, what makes you upset. And when you are in conflict or in disagreement, how do you come out of that, right? So I need to understand certain patterns of behavior. So this is not for the faint-hearted, Yeah. So and once I ask all those questions, I need to be able to synthesize them and digest them, and say, okay, you have shared with me this aspect of yourself. Is there anything else that I need to know? And usually that kind of questions will dredge up more things, from their past, right? I also try to look into their relationship history. What makes them come out of previous relationship, or what mistakes do they think that they have made in the previous relationship that they want to avoid in the subsequent relationship that they are in, right?
Wow.
So do they have that kind of awareness? Have they reflected on their past mistakes rather than coming to the table and describing to me how crazy the ex-partner was, right? That's somebody who has clearly not learned anything from the previous relationship, other than the fact that they were victimized or, excuse me, that they have chosen poorly, right? Still, even if you have chosen poorly, how can I help you choose wisely this time round? So it is a very in-depth conversation. It requires them to be wearing their heart on their sleeve and to be transparent, so that I can properly advocate for them to their future partner.
All right. So so once they are a good fit and you find the perfect match for this person, what's the next process? How do you set them up? How do you put them together?
Yeah.
What's the process like?
There isn't a perfect match, right? Yeah. So I always caution against them putting up a laundry list of the people that they want to meet, or having a checklist that they hold up against another person. But I always ask them to look at shared backgrounds and the core values that they want to see in their next relationship.
Right.
A lot of people, when they come to me, typically what they look for are people, they must have chemistry with the other person. There must be some physical attraction, the looks, the charm, the reputation, the money, the education, all the external manifestation of success. But I know for a fact, after having done this for 20 years, that what they need to look for in their relationship is the ability to trust their partner.
Okay.
The emotional safety and stability that they need to have when they are with their partner, right? Because intimacy is not just about physical intimacy, it's about being truthful to who you are and to have the other person accept you for that, right? Because you have flaws, you have strength, and you have weaknesses. And when you are not in agreement with your partner, are you able to communicate your unmet needs to your partner without feeling like you don't have a listening ear, right? So all these things are very, very important when you look for a potential life partner. I don't just advocate the typical, tall, dark and handsome, or, just a pretty face to make it as a main criteria for a life partner. So I get to advise them, and this is the part that I get very excited about, because I get to redefine with my client what constitutes a compatible partner and what makes a healthy reciprocal relationship.
Right. Okay. So if you had a success story that, is still memorable to this day, what would it be?
Too many.
Too many. If you had to choose one.
Too many. Okay. But the last I can remember is of this gentleman who just proposed in January. And he's 60 years old, and he has been married before. And of course, he said, the lady must be pretty, but we get to redefine that again. I said, what is it that you didn't get in your last relationship that you want to see in your next relationship? What are those unmet needs, that broke the camel's back in your last relationship? So he listed for me, right? Somebody who could listen to him, somebody who could engage him intellectually, somebody who's there, who's going to give him moral support when he comes back from his business trips, because he's a business owner. And I said, what happened to that relationship? So he said his ex-wife was just too busy being a doctor, just too busy for him. So they outgrew each other. And so he get to reestablish, the criteria, what he wants. And I said, you have to also do the work, right? As much as you want her to show up supportive, loving, kind, considerate. Are you all of that? Right? And so it opened his eyes, and so he never discussed that he needed a pretty face anymore.
So he redefined what pretty means.
Yes, that's right. And so I introduced him to a 48-year-old lady who has that flexibility of time in her career. And of course, she was showing up for him. She was present, she was interested, she was curious, she was vulnerable, she was non-judgmental, more importantly, because she's never been married before, and he's been married, and he has 2 children from his previous relationship. So she accepted him for who he was. And because of all of that, he said, oh my goodness, I hit the jackpot, right? Those are the winning combination that I didn't think I wanted. But once you asked me, those are the things that I knew was important, that was going to be important in my next relationship. And so he proposed to her.
Oh, that is so nice. Well, before we let you go here, Anisa, I really need to ask you, do you have any advice for those who are, a bit lonely this Valentine's Day?
Oh, absolutely. I was just on TikTok saying that Valentine's Day is just one day. We have over-commercialized and made it more important than it is. Yes, it's a time for us to celebrate love for each other. But if you're lonely, I think the best way to get out of that loneliness is not to be by yourself, right? Be in the company of people who inspire you, who uplift you, who can accept you for who you are. Most importantly, if there are causes that you can volunteer your time in, do that, because you take yourself out of the equation and you start contributing, you start feeling like you matter, you know that you're doing something good for somebody else who is far more underprivileged than you are. And that's when you feel that life is not just about me, right? It's about making that difference, doing something meaningful and fulfilling, and be intentional about the time that you're going to spend outside of yourself. Because sometimes in those cases when you are out there volunteering and doing stuff that makes you happy, you might just be in the company of people who are equally single, right? And you might just find your tribe in those circumstances. So remember that Valentine's Day is just one day. What are you going to do for the next 364 days? So do not overemphasize the day, right? Get on with your life as per normal and do something that inspires you rather than staying at home and moping that you don't have a Valentine's Day this year.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Anisa, for joining me today.
You're most welcome.
That was Anisa Hassan, who is a founder of Date High Flyers. This has been The Right Business with me, Hongbin Jeong.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.